Around here, they're not bad. They're just here. I mean, you don't see very many of them. You see their sign. But wherever there's water, you're going to find them.
Nutria are a rodent that came from South America. They were introduced into the United States in roughly the early and mid-1930s. Oregon, our first fur farm was about 1933, 34 in that area, in Tillamook. And then they eventually branched out into some of the Clackamas system rivers.
You know, I started hunting nutria, as a kid, but, as pest control, golf courses years ago had a lot of damage. And they, owning an archery shop, they'd ask us to come out at night and actually hunt nutria on the golf courses.
Originally came in as a get-rich scheme, where you'd raise these, the fur prices were good and the meat was supposed to be good, but the market fell. So instead of euthanizing them at that time, they just released them. And we also had some major flooding events, so washed some of these fur-bearing ranches out, and so they were escaped that way. And since then, they have populated most of western Oregon and have got into eastern Oregon as well. And the Willamette Valley has a very high density of nutria in it.
The warmer the area, the more there are. I have a trapper friend. He fed his kids when they were younger. They ate nutria and muskrat. Muskrats, I've been told, is pretty good taste, and nutria's not bad.
When we were kids, we trapped nutria. They were $18 for a pelt. You had probably 5 minutes involved in setting the trap, actually skinning the nutria, and putting it on a wire stretcher. And the pelts were worth $18 a piece. And that was that would have been in the 70s and 80s. Oh my gosh, that was fast money for kids. I mean, 2-week period, one time we caught 300 nutria in 2 weeks. And it's a lot of work, but we made a lot of money.
330 conibears. The 330 trap's big enough that, I could almost get my head in it. I don't think they'd break Wyatt's arm, but a smaller kid, they could break their arm.
Now, they'll still buy the pelts, but like $2, $3 a piece. So the pelts aren't worth, the fur market is like everything in the economy. The fur market's kind of in the toilet right now, but nutria pelts used to be worth tremendous. I mean, $18 back in 1980, 81, that was pretty good money for one nutria pelt.
We have a lot of marshes and streams and corridors, and these things are very prolific. They can have litters twice a year, and generally 5 to 8s in a litter. And so just a pair can reproduce in 3 years rather quickly.
They're just uncontrollable. It's a type of animal that can just move in and take over. You're constantly have new animals. But you would get the old smart ones, that would, they'd kind of teach the other ones, how to run, when the time for danger was. But they're kind of a bold animal too. A lot of them just stand their ground with you.
The most interesting story was I got a call from a customer who had seen some nutria down by his landscaping pond in his backyard. And he said that there was 3 baby nutria along the edge of the water. So I had a big net and I suited up and wore my coveralls, and I walked down there, and sure enough, there was the 3 nutria. And I scooped them up, and it was a done deal. And as I was turning around, the bush right there by the water started shaking. And I kind of looked at it, and here came the mama nutria, and she jumped out of the bush and ran at me, and it happened so fast. And she bit me on the ankle, and of course I dropped the net with the babies, and so I had to defend myself. She was actually out in the water at that point and coming back in to get me again, so I grabbed the babies and basically ran. And when she bit me, it felt like a staple hole puncher, kind of just chomp, and they got the 4 teeth like a beaver, and it just really hurt.
If you look at Louisiana, they actually use the nutria to train their sharpshooters. Once you start hunting them too much, they get pretty sly. They have poor vision, but they have great sense of hearing, and so as soon as they hear anything, they're heading for the water, so that makes it difficult.
These are kill traps. Everything's killed as quick as possible. I usually pack in a firearm.
A nutria is going to avoid you. If you corner them, they'll run up and probably grab you and bite you. If you corner them or kick at them or something, they'll definitely get a hold of you and bite you.
By nature, nutria are burrowing animals, so they burrow into the banks And they create a large denning where they live, and they have tunnels. Some tunnels have been known up to 130 feet long inside the banks. And what eventually happens, especially when we get saturation, the dens collapse. So you get sedimentation into the rivers, as well as when they're close in urban environments. We've had trailers tilt. We've had people actually killed because they were driving with tractors along the levee and it gave, and tractor tipped on top of them and they drowned.
I feel sorry for an animal that's suffering, and if I was out and I seen a little nutria that was hurt or something, I'd probably, try to help it and save it or whatever. I mean, this is up here, to me, is not a nutria problem. They're here.
It's something that we are always going to have to limit. I mean, we're going to have to learn, how to keep a limitation on a rodent population that is an invasive species. They're here now. We got to learn to live with them. We're not going to get rid of them. There's no way. Everybody's tried. You can't eradicate them. I mean, you can take the numbers down to where you can, the crop damage isn't going to be there. You can limit them, but boy, it takes a lot of work because they're coming. Yeah, they're a locust. They're coming. You got to deal with it.